Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Sportsball Podcast. I'm your host this week, Zach, joined by, once again, Andy and Nate. And we're here to talk about everything but the NFL. So we might as well skip over that.
On the basketball season. Let's go.
Whoa. Wait, does that mean that the teams at the top of the NFL standings are the champions then if we're ending the season?
Well, hold on. We are personally ending the season. Doesn't mean it's over.
Yes.
But no.
For some other people,
The
it might be
2024 season has been canceled.
Canceled.
The 2024 season actually been canceled. So we're just not gonna do about it. We're not gonna do anything with it. It's just gone. It's X'd out.
But I have a whole schedule on Sunday that says otherwise.
You should double check that again. That's probably wrong.
Fine. Anyway, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to your source for sports here at the Sportsball Podcast, where unfortunately, yes, we do have to talk about all the sports that happened this last weekend, which again, same as last week, was mainly football. Baseball is still happening, but not a whole lot. I mean, that's kind of all.
The White Sox are still on the trend to being the worst modern league baseball team in history. I don't know where they're at, but I know that they are still very much on the trajectory to finish with the worst league record in quite some time.
There you go. There's your MLB news for the week. And we're getting
There's like 2 weeks left of the season, so
that's the only news that matters.
We'll start bringing that back up once the playoffs come.
Andy and I are going to get contentious in about a week or so. I think we have a series coming up, but I don't know when.
Ooh, that'll be fun.
Dude, that ain't gonna happen.
That's a future us problem though.
So fine, let's get into it. Let's talk about the NFL. And since I'm on the beginning here, I'll start. Eagles took on the Falcons on Monday Night Football, which I don't know what happened outside of terrible game management, but man, that was a rough game to watch. There for 58 minutes, I was like, yeah, okay. Like, it was a little rough in the first quarter, but I'm like, nah, it happens. It takes a little bit of time to warm up sometimes or to get going. And then the rest of the game, I'm like, okay, they look like they're settling in. Defense looked like a little bit of a problem, but kind of attributed that to maybe people sleeping on Atlanta a little bit. Maybe they're better than people assumed. And then Kirko Chains just balls out in the last minute and a half, which there's a whole other discussion about the play calling at the end, which I'll be the first to say, at least between us probably, I didn't hate the play call. It's just bonkers to me that if you're going aggressive on third down, why the heck didn't they go fourth down as well? Why didn't they also run it up the middle on 3rd and 3? I don't know.
I don't know if that Saquon Butter sponsorship is going to be going to the moon.
Anyway, I mean, this is all kind of the short verse, and I don't. Yeah, there's, you can read all about it on the internet at this point. I don't have any real good takes. That's not going to be regurgitated BS at this point, but yeah. No, watching the rest of the game, though, the Eagles, it looks like it's going to be a long year for us Eagles fans. So unless they figure it out against, let's see, next on the schedule is the Saints. So who appear to be an absolute tank this year. So this could be a rough.
Derek Carr revenge tour.
Clearly. But yeah, I know I texted you guys this win. Yes, Saquon should have caught the ball. And yes, I don't hate the play call either, because he catches that's likely a touchdown and game over.
And we wouldn't be talking, nobody would be talking about it. They'd be like, wow, they're geniuses. What a great play.
And I would have gotten a couple more fantasy points. Life would have been good.
Yeah, honestly, if he would have caught that, he 100% probably would have scored it.
Yeah, because he did earlier on that previous. No, he didn't. They called him short. But either way, it's the game management with Sirianni. Atlanta's out of timeouts on a 3rd and 3, 3rd and 4 situation. And granted, there's a minute 50 or whatever was left. But you run the ball, maybe you don't get 4th down. You still have the best 4th down play, 4th and yard play in the entire NFL that you could still theoretically go for it. And then you kill the clock in like a minute 10 or a minute 5 before you run your fourth down play if you don't get that third down play. And even then, you give Atlanta still a minute-ish to drive 97, 98 yards or whatever, how long it was with no timeouts. Now, clearly they did it from the 30-yard line, as we all saw, but, you're not giving them a full minute 39 like they had to drive the entire length of the field instead. So, yeah, I would be very curious as to what like the Philly sports talk shows have been since Monday night of how they've talked about Sirianni.
Have not watched him. But on the flip side,
filled, I imagine.
I think I kind of what I said, like the play call itself happened. I don't think people have really hated the play call. If anything, it's also kind of an indictment on the defense. Yeah. Not that Kirk is necessarily a bad quarterback, because he looked a heck of a lot better in week 2 than he did in week 1. I'll admit that straight up. He looked way better. Also, the offensive line for the Falcons, I think, is pretty good.
When Arthur Smith is not running the offense,
either it's either that or the defensive line for Philly has taken a massive step back, which I think both things can be true, and it probably is what happened. But in this case, it just was the defense couldn't do anything, and so I mean, if anything, that's more concerning to me than that play call, because at the end of the day, the defense wasn't really doing anything throughout the game. It seemed like it was the old bend but don't break defense, which I get. Kind of works sometimes, but I don't know. I don't like it. Just get pressure on the guys, but they couldn't even do that. So it was rough.
Especially when Saquon was averaging, I think what I'd say like 4.4 yards a carry that game. And that's exactly what they needed for the first down. So it's like, if you don't get it, you still have the best fourth down play in the entire NFL. That'll get you more often than not your guaranteed first down and kill the game. I mean, they didn't have to score to win the game. They could have just got the first down. The game would have been over and just knelt on the ball type thing. So, yeah, it's very questionable play call. Again, I don't hate it because you catches that. For sure, the game's over and that's a touchdown. But
it's like you said, though. It goes back to the game management. Just poor game management.
Yeah. It's a free timeout to Atlanta, and obviously in that case, it worked for them.
It was good old Scoot Forced days for the NFL, though.
Yeah.
Real upsetting.
I just came to the realization.
Enough about my team.
The NFC South might be the AL Central of football.
Dude,
so do with that what you like.
Bucks and Saints are going to be a very, very fun race to watch. I'm watching them play twice.
Bucks, Saints, I mean, even the Falcons are kind of like your Royals, Twins, Guardians, and then the Panthers are exactly the White Sox.
Yeah, the Panthers are exactly who we all thought they would be. And I genuinely feel very bad if you're like a true Panthers fan, because you have to be going through hell.
Even worse now because Bryce Young is officially, understandably, benched
for the Red Rifle, baby. Andy Dalton.
God, damn.
He's still in the league.
Did you guys see that clip of Bryce Young? He threw that interception and it just like zoomed in. You know how the NFL does that great thing where they zoom clear in on your face now?
Yeah.
Showed him just like on the verge of bawling. And I'm like, well, I don't like the Panthers, but I don't hate them enough to like, I feel more bad for Panthers fans than I do like happy that they lost. You know what I mean? Like at this point, it's just like, what happened?
Right. I feel kind of bad for Bryce Young. Like,
and that's what I was going to bring up, Nate, is Baker. I think during his press conference today, they had asked him about like, Bryce Young and everything. And he's like, yeah, Bryce's story doesn't end here. Like, he's still a good quarterback. And Baker's like, yeah, I'm a living testament to like, I kind of suffered through being at Carolina. And Baker's bounced around from team to team, but I mean, he's really found his footing in Tampa. So, I mean, honestly, it might take getting Bryce out of Carolina for him to actually be better at quarterback, but until the Panthers decide to do that. Yeah, it's
also former Carolina
Panther. So it's obviously, and we all know this too, it's Carolina organization. It was the second worst behind the Commies until they fired Dan Schneider. So now the Panthers are probably the worst.
Well, hold on. The Commies is still
the field is very trash.
I mean, I was gonna say like the verdict's still out on them. Yes,
Yeah.
they finally got rid of Dan Snyder. Great for them, but like we got to
Yeah.
see what
Hey,
the new regime does. But they're all ready to step up.
They've won a football game this season already.
They have.
That
So-
they won it last weekend too, which none of the rest of the NFC East can say.
No.
Granted, that was
So-
kind of an unfair advantage because the commies played the Giants. And so, of
Yes.
course, one of them was
So I'm
going
hearing
to
that the
win.
Commanders are wagging, going to run
No.
the table.
They are probably going to win the
Locked
East, to
in
be
by
honest.
Zach.
The NFC East.
No.
Sorry, not the whole East. They're probably going to win the NFC East.
The whole NFC, the Commanders are going to win, according to Zach.
You know what?
Someone clip that and quote it.
You know what? No,
Freezing
I'm not.
at the end of the season.
I'm not staking my claim there. However, that is just the weirdness that the NFL is that somehow they'd find a way to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me I'm wrong.
No.
I'm not saying it will happen, and there are many better teams that will do it. But
Right.
that is the NFL in a nutshell. It's like somehow the Commanders will be the team that somehow gets to like a deep playoff spot.
Right.
Not winning, not necessarily winning all of it, but I will be
Yeah.
intrigued.
Well, yeah, they'll lose to the Chiefs in the Super Bowl, but
Well, the script has already been written for the three of these
It's-
guys.
Watching that game.
That's why I'm not
was
worried about this season.
frustrating.
exactly.
I know we were all watching it, or like, oh, the Bengals are gonna do it, and I'm sitting there like, I've seen this movie 50 times since Patrick Mahomes has been with the Chiefs. It's like the Chiefs aren't losing this game, no matter how crazy and chaotic you want to draw it up. Is they're gonna win no matter what, and they did. So it's like it doesn't even like excite me to try to root for the other team anymore because I'm like, Patrick Mahomes is gonna get the ball at some way at the end and win the game. Like it just happens, and it happened again on Sunday. And the Bengals did put out a better performance in their Week 1 performance, so I do have more hope for them, even though they are 0-2.
That's how they start, though. Bengals
Yeah,
always
and that's
start slow.
and they looked in that performance Sunday. Just told me like, oh yeah, they're gonna get it figured out here in the next week or two, and then eventually end up 10-4 again or something like that.
That's the only hope I have as
Yeah.
an Eagles fan right now is that somehow the Eagles, like this week, are like, okay, we're gonna go
Yeah.
out, we're gonna actually practice this week or something. Be like, oh, that would have helped if you did that first couple weeks.
Yeah, it's just what it is. I think the funnier story was the Ravens blowing the game to the Raiders. They had
If
The Ravens being in a close game with the Raiders. Just interesting.
The Ravens had a 10-point lead and blew that to the
I don't
Raiders.
know. I don't know how you follow up almost beating the Chiefs.
By losing to the Raiders.
Obviously, guys, the Gardner Minshew, the Minshew mania. When I saw that he was the quarterback, because I had forgotten that, I was like, what?
right,
I didn't even realize he was like on it. I knew he was on a team. I didn't realize he was the starter.
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
like,
oh yeah, no, he's
What?
Between him and Aiden O'Connell, I think.
yeah,
Wow.
So
the Raiders quarterback room.
So it's
What an
between
elite group.
it's between Uncle Pedro and the other white bread in the NFL, huh?
Yes.
Not Brock Purdy.
No,
Fun fact.
he's Wonder Bread for sure.
Amir Abdullah still plays for the Raiders.
Yes, he
I
does.
was not aware of that.
I think he's still their special teams or third string running back role, but yeah, he's
I'm
still
surprised. I'm surprised he hasn't retired yet. Just because,
That's
just
so
because he strikes me as getting to that age where it's like, hey, I'm gonna hang it up.
there.
He
Before we
was
get
there when I was in college, and I should be
Yeah.
hanging it up, which means he should be close.
to yes,
What
that's how the
are you
logic
telling
works.
me? Are you telling me you're not playing on Sundays
Yes,
or Mondays?
every
or
other,
Thursdays?
but yeah.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
yes, that's
I was gonna say,
exactly how
I
that
may have
works.
missed that. Andy, we haven't talked about your team yet.
I don't want to talk about my team, man.
What? Why not? What?
Hey, I
Dude.
talked about mine, but I guess you're right. Mine does have a
watching
win.
this offense was supposedly a better situation at quarterback. It's like watching Russell with Nathaniel Hackett 2 years ago. It's as despicable, if not almost worse than it was 2 years ago. They cannot run the ball for the life of them. And that doesn't bode well for a guy that's never played in the NFL trying to win you games as a rookie quarterback. So turns
I will
out
say
they need to be better at that.
Steelers do have a pretty good defense.
They do. And it's
So-
not entirely like Denver's fault that they were bad on offense because, yes, the Steelers' defense is really good too. And having, again, TJ Watt, one of the best defensive linemen in the league, is pretty good to have him on your team. But, I mean, it's so baffling how, I mean, Sean Payton, yes, still treating Bo Nix like a rookie and, like, not doing a whole lot of airing it out, but, like, they get into these situations where they have to air it out, and they keep running these check downs or, like, 5-yard routes short of the sticks, and it's like that Vikings game, Kirk Cousins' last game, where you're on 4th and 7 or whatever, and you throw a 5-yard pass.
Yeah,
I mean, that's Denver's offense
that's
right
classic,
now. It's like 3rd 7, and these tight ends are running 5-yard routes. I'm like, go 2 more yards, dude. That's where you got to go. But they did do some deep shots that game that Bo did complete. So I just think they just need to let him kind of air it out more and just open up the offense. And I mean, yes, the rookie mistakes are going to happen because they had like a 60-yard trick play and get into the red zone, and then Bo throws an interception. So, I mean, it's going to happen with the rookie quarterback that he's not going to know all these coverages and disguises yet. But
his response in the press conference that he saw was absolutely gold, though. Can you explain what happened on that interception? Yep, I dropped back and threw it to the other team.
Yeah, but it's an issue when you can't run the ball, because I think Javonte had like 15 carries for like 30-something yards. And I mean, you can't have that as an NFL running back. Is you can't have your lead back go for 30 yards.
I was going to say, I'm no mathematician.
NFL game.
That's not great.
No. So it's like you're setting Bo up to fail because you're relying on him to throw 40-something passes when you don't want to put your rookie QB in that situation. I mean, the Bears are kind of doing that too. I mean, their offense isn't great, but you're trying to have Caleb Williams do everything. And you can't really necessarily do that with a rookie quarterback in the NFL until they determined that they're able to do it. But it's going to be a long year unless Denver can figure it out on offense. Because their defense is still semi good, but it's, they only gave up 13 points. And yes, I know the Steelers offense isn't that great either, but I mean, holding a team in the NFL to 13 points is pretty good, I would say.
Just wait until the Steelers bring back Rock and Rudolph, though.
Dude,
teams are in trouble then.
Yeah. But outside of that,
we got to talk about that fluke win.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Fluke win. The 49ers are hurt, Nate. That's why you guys won.
Do we remember?
I like how you phrase that as the 49ers, where the whole team is just Christian McCaffrey.
Yes.
Which is definitely not the case, but
there's no Debo. Kittle went out for part of that game. There's no McCaffrey. So, like,
Ayuk
what are the 49ers without any of them?
Yes. I also remember when the Vikings didn't have Hawkinson, Addison, or Jefferson for the fourth quarter.
No,
that was a lie.
We were throwing to our punt returner, man. I don't know what you want.
Hey. It worked for the Eagles, kind of, sort of, not really. Actually, you know what? I'm going to blame the Vikings for that then. If they started doing it, then they were like, oh, it worked for them. Screw the Vikings.
And I mean, like, I don't know. Maybe don't give up 32 rushing yards to Sam Darnold. Could be a place to start, but
how much?
32. Not that much, but more than you would think.
I was going to say Sam Darnold is not known for his mobility.
Yeah.
He's not week one Kirko Chain's bad, but he's
week
not.
Week 2 is comparable.
Yeah. There you go.
But it was shocking. I will say I wasn't, I thought they could hang with it. I didn't think they'd actually come away with the win there. I've been conditioned to, especially in the situation they were in at the end of the game, where it's like, what, they were up 20-17, I think, or 20 to whatever. They were up by just enough, and like a field goal was gonna at least like buffer them a bit, and they just went down and had a flawless like drive down the field, chewed up some clock, got a score to buffer things, and we're able to lean on the defense. Usually that's like either a quick 3 and out or an interception, and then you're like, oh, I've seen this movie before. It was a very different movie, and I was not prepared for it this week.
What do you mean you've seen this? It's new.
I believe it's called the Kirk Cousins special. So,
Let me tell
although it
you
seems
something
like he's
about
refined
the
it
Kirk
now.
Cousins special. I got lied to when I heard about that.
But I'm gonna enjoy the ride for however long it lasts. The defense had the potential and they're living up to it, and I'm really excited to see that unfold as long as they can stay healthy, because Brian Flores is insane, and if he's got a bunch of dudes willing to pin their ears back for him, it could be problematic. And then, I mean, I guess just trusting in the legend of old Sammy Dimes at this point too. Still not sure how I feel about that statement, but it's kind of where we're
making
at.
it. We aren't.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it's on you.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, we had the stretch of just a lot of good teams coming up, so we'll see how we go the next few weeks. I know we got the Texans coming up on Sunday, so that'll be an interesting matchup with CJ Stroud. We got a couple of our
My
old
new
defensive
team.
players on Houston's defense, so it'll be interesting to see how all that works out. But
I mean, your
optimistic.
DBs are gonna have a hell of a game with Diggs, Collins, Dell.
Mhm.
I mean, that's a hell of a receiving core, and we knew that last year. And just Diggs is getting older, but he's still very reliable when you need him to be. And Collins has emerged as a very top target in the league too. And on top of that, Joe Mixon still doesn't look like he's missed a step either. So it's a lot of
I think
weapons
he had
on.
an ankle injury, so
He did,
was
so-
questionable for this week at least.
And
but
that
yeah.
might hinder their run game, but I mean, you still have CJ Stroud running the
Mhm.
offense. So it's going to be a very tough game for your secondary. It's, like you said, how much does Flores want to put Stroud under pressure and
Mhm.
try to make him make mistakes?
Yeah, it'll be fun to see kind of how it shakes out. I mean, the Bears were able to contain the Texans
Mhm.
for the most part, but I also wouldn't be terribly surprised if Diggs went off for like a spike game. So
Yeah, and it's, I mean, fair, and you can't even take. I mean, these kickers in the league now are getting so much better. And Fairbairn, however you say his last name, I mean, he's been automatic this season too.
Have you heard about Will the Thrill Reichard?
I have heard, and I have seen him play. So I mean, it's not even like a guarantee that if you get them past midfield that they won't kick a field goal, because they clearly are willing to try it. So yeah,
we need to hold that. Can you imagine an offense where you're just like, we'll get to midfield, kick field goal, take the points every drive?
The only two offenses I could think of that could actually do that would be the Ravens and Chiefs, and that's only because of Tucker and Bucker.
I'm halfway kidding.
And maybe the Cowboys, because Aubrey looks really, really good as a kicker.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
now.
I'm halfway kidding here, but I feel like, isn't that what the commies did? Didn't they win off of just kicking like 7 field goals?
Yeah. That's
So,
and I don't know if this was this week or last week when the Cowboys they had like a 65-yard attempt go through and they got called for delay game. And Mike McCarthy was setting him back out there to try a 71-yarder. And I'm like, he actually might make it if you let him do it. Because he had like a few extra yards on that 65-yarder that Aubrey made. So it's no surprise. I mean, it kind of is a surprise that kickers are actually getting more consistent and good in the NFL. Because that's just not really a position you think of either. But I'm happy to see it because AKA my team will probably need a lot of kicking points this year. That's my MVP. It's always our kickers.
We're just going to be bombing at 97 yards to Jefferson.
I won't run that play. That works every time too.
Yeah, it worked out really well. I have Jefferson in one of my other fantasy leagues. Worked out pretty well.
Just like Mahomes with Tyreek, it's like F it, Tyreek down there somewhere. Tua couldn't say that anymore.
Speaking of Tua, by the way, he is officially on IR. So
I think we all kind of do
He's
that.
officially banned from football.
I'm just saying that did finally come out.
That's what
that news did happen. He did finally go on IR. So I think
I mean,
was
that's
that
it's
today
a
or yesterday.
technicality, but like we all knew that was going to happen. And if it didn't happen, I would be asking who's the doctor for the Dolphins because that shouldn't be the doctor anymore.
We asked that quite a few times so
Yeah,
far with
and they
the
kept
Miami
trotting it back
Dolphins.
out there.
I'll be the one to say it. Like, I was a little surprised that it was this quick that it came out that he's on IR. Just be like, oh, they didn't take like an extra week and trot him back out there, which is probably really good that they didn't. But I'm just saying.
I'm sure old Roger had something to do with that conversation there.
Doing
You
all
would
like
hope.
no offensive line set, really just hammering the ground.
Dude, every
now
quarterback
he's on IR.
every quarterback run that I saw from this past week, everybody is sliding. I'm like, you know who wouldn't slide? Tua. He would go head first into the defender.
There were times, even after that, too, there were times where Jalen ran in the game and he, Hurts tucked the ball and ran, and then he would like lower his shoulder. And I'm like, okay, granted, he's built a little different than Tua in the sense that, he squats 600 pounds. But I was just like, don't do that. But I mean, that's also something he's really good at. So, but he did slide half the other time. So it's like, whatever. You're
Right.
You know what you're doing.
But all right. I think that's our NFL, well, I guess, week wrap up. But yes, NCAA football, not really a whole lot happened in terms of upsets. I mean, Bama went into Madison and absolutely ruled Wisconsin.
Wisconsin looks bad.
Yeah, the bigger story that came out of that was Tyler Van Dyke is out for the season now with an ACL. And when it did happen, I mean, it was like the fourth play of the first drive, too, when he went out. I was like, well, that doesn't feel good for this game. And it didn't. Not that I think Van Dyke probably would have helped that much either way in the offense. But Wisconsin is going to have to go to their backup. And the backup did not look that good. And like you said, Zach, they're bad. Then that just makes that game much more interesting when they come for senior day to Nebraska.
Oh, they're coming to Nebraska?
Yeah. That's senior day for November 23rd or something like that. Which is also the weekend that volleyball plays Wisconsin too. So that's that weekend. That's going to be a really big weekend in Husker sports.
So
interesting.
This isn't really a fickle thing at this point, but like, is this finally the year that Nebraska football can finally get their revenge on Wisconsin? Feels like forever since we've been able to say, hey, we beat Wisconsin. And I feel like we can actually do it.
Yeah.
If we keep playing like we have been, we'll get there.
Right now, yes. Now, when we get to that
got
week
a couple months ago.
Yeah. When we get to that week prep, it depends on, how we look from now until we get there. That answer might change. But like right now, yes, we would beat them.
I do know that they're different injuries, but Van Dyke should probably contact Aaron Rodgers for that quick 2-month heal from an ACL.
Yes, absolutely. That's the guy you want to get all your medical sound advice from.
Ayahuasca.
I mean, that's Indiana. I mean, we'll get to this because we're going to play Indiana, but Indiana looks like an offense. And yes, they have played very poor competition, so it's not like they played anybody good. And UCLA is trash this year.
Yeah, I was going to say UCLA is the one team that really surprised. Well, and then Georgia almost losing Kentucky.
Yeah, and that one was shocking. Randomly watched much of that because that was going on at the same time as the Nebraska game. But I kept checking the score. And I'm like, it's a low-scoring affair, and Kentucky's winning this game until like the very end when Georgia only won 13-12, and rightfully so that they should not be number one anymore.
Kentucky surrendered.
Yeah.
Goodness.
Yeah, that punt was a very questionable decision.
How do you make that call?
Yeah.
I think to me the least surprising thing coming out of this weekend is that Texas went to it's
good,
least
man.
Surprising just because Texas looks really good. And it's just like, damn, I really, really don't want to say that.
And I know we talked about this last week because obviously, their judgment will come when they finally get into the SEC play and when they have that back-to-back week of Oklahoma and Georgia. So we'll see how they actually do then. But they look really, really good.
It's scary, but it's. I know we talked about this. I think it was last week, maybe 2 weeks ago. Their schedule They're winning handedly.
It sets up pretty well until those 2 weekends.
But I mean, then even the rest of it, it's
Mhm.
like they're probably going to go. If they lose those 2, they go 10-2. Like,
And they'll probably still get into the playoff with that record
easily. And
because
so
your 2 losses would be against top-ranked teams.
So,
and then the SEC is going to be a weird one to watch in terms of how their conference championship plays out. Because the automatic winner gets the bye, but then how many of the other SEC teams get in outside of that, and based on how the Big Ten shaping up too, I'm gonna guess they'll probably get 3 to 4, probably 4, because
it's just going to be
Big
12.
Ten.
It's going to be 12 SEC teams.
Yeah, and Oregon picked up their stuff this weekend over Oregon State, so they looked better than they did the first 2 weeks. But I mean, confidently, you can say Ohio State and maybe Oregon from the Big Ten. So it depends on how USC.
Another red school there.
Well, yes, Nate.
Oh, right, Wisconsin,
yes, or USC.
Wait a minute,
But it'll depend on how Penn State finishes the year, how USC finishes the year. It's kind of like maybe the 3-4 combo there. But the SEC probably looks like they're going to get a lot more teams in, and Florida State is so funny to watch. They are hilariously bad.
I think we need a Florida State Purdue toilet bowl game.
Yeah.
I think that would cleanse the soul.
And I couldn't tell you who would actually win that game.
the world, the viewers.
Maybe neither team would win that game.
The Sicko Bowl. That's what it needs to be.
Yeah, they are hilariously bad, and it's very funny. I mean, it's like we had mentioned last week. It's everything they deserve for being so petty against the ACC. Like, it's all coming back to them this season.
That's the other thing is this is different than like the Panthers situation where people are like, okay, like I legitimately feel bad for the Panthers because they do actually deserve better. People are just like, we do not care. Florida State can screw off, and everybody's just petty as hell with it, and I love it.
Mm-hmm.
Except for their fans, obviously.
Yeah,
it's because the one guy that said if they lose to, I think it was Georgia Tech, that he was going to eat dog poop, and then he never did it. He's why they're failing.
That's probably why they're cursed. Yep.
So you don't make those kinds of claims, especially off of a year coming like last year. I get it. It's like, oh, the hype, like we could be really good next year, but you don't make those claims.
No.
As we sit here and be like, hey guys, Nebraska could get into the playoff and make a deep playoff run.
That's obviously a given.
That's different.
That's different, obviously.
Now, granted, we didn't. I did. I made some kind of bet that if Nebraska lost or something, but I don't remember what it was. I have to go back and watch it now.
I'll eat a whole bowl of corn if we win the national championship.
Yes, ditto.
Wow.
You heard it here first. Doing it for the people.
We'll record a whole episode of all of us just eating
eating corn.
That's it. No, not even talking. Just us. Just
some nice ASMR.
No, not even. It's just gonna be on mute the whole time. You get nothing but the view.
No
of
sound,
us.
Just the view.
And it'll be uploaded on like Spotify and stuff too. So people are like, "What is this?"
The comment, the note for the episode will be, "Please see YouTube."
It's just literally the title.
And the comment for YouTube will be, please see Spotify.
It'd be like those memes where it's like, look at the top left of the picture. Look at the dog's nose. And it's just like, it takes you all over the place.
But yeah, speaking of corn, we'll recap the Northern Iowa Fighting Panthers, which, yes, Nebraska did end up 34-3 victorious. Another boring second half. And we can kind of get into whether that's a good or bad thing. I think it's a good thing that it's a boring second half because that means you're winning in hand. And we haven't had that kind of feeling for a long time because every game always comes down to the last 2 drives for some odd reason every year. But Northern Iowa came in, did exactly what I thought they would do, just with a little bit more passing more than I expected. But I mean, they came in, they wanted to kill the clock and run the ball, and they did. I mean, they did win the time of possession time frame there, and when you see a team that has 38 minutes of possession time to 21, you're like, oh man, how many points did they score? I mean, Nebraska only gave up 3, and that was that very first drive of the game. Outside of that, I mean, Northern Iowa had chances. Nebraska stopped them, didn't let them score on 4th down or anything like that, or advance the drive in. I know people, I mean, I'm sure the defense is probably pissed about how they played. And I mean, they at times didn't tackle very well, had some leaky tackles, leaky coverage that did allow Northern Iowa to advance. But I mean, the final stats is you still give up only 3 points that entire game, despite Northern Iowa almost doubling your time of possession. And that just also proves how Nebraska did on offense is they just had some quick scoring drives. And that's not always a bad thing. But you don't want your defense out there for 38 minutes of the game too. Even, the second half or towards the end of the third quarter, fourth quarter is mainly your second strings. So your first string isn't playing that entire game. But I was happy with a kind of a boring second half because we aren't accustomed to those, to where like this is kind of, it wasn't necessarily stress-free football, but it was something that you could lay back and you're like, Nebraska's pretty much got this in hand. They're not going to do anything dumb. At least we thought, to give up a back-breaking play or anything like that. And the second string defense or offense did score on that Emmett Johnson touchdown, which was good to see. And I think probably our favorite parts were, Heinrich getting in there, which pros and cons to both having your second string quarterback play a different position. I'm on the con side that it's knowing Nebraska's history. It's still not smart to have your second string quarterback trotting out there getting hit when he can. Just when Nebraska history tells us that at some point we will need to actually use our second string quarterback or third string quarterback. But, I'm all for it under the presumption that Dylan can stay healthy and play. Then yeah, do whatever you want with Heinrich. But at the same time, you still got to be conservative with him because if Dylan gets hurt, you're running Heinrich out there to get hit by linebackers playing tight end. I mean, you don't need that wear and tear on him, considering that Heinrich is going to be running more of your read option offense rather than Dylan when he does go in. But I mean, Heinrich this year is not the Heinrich of last year. And I know that probably doesn't sit well with people because they all saw him last year. Like, well, what are we going to get out of this guy again? Well, when you have a quarterback coach in Glenn Thomas that actually can come in and teach you quarterback play, you get the difference. And Heinrich did show that he looked a lot different. Yeah, I know, Zach, weird.
You're telling me that having a quarterback coach that actually coaches quarterbacks is helpful?
Yeah, it's really weird.
That's a concept.
I thought quarterback coach was just supposed to smoke a big cigar.
And
I thought that was his job.
And yeah. I don't blame Sat last year because he was the quarterback coach before he moved to tight end coach. Yeah. I don't blame him for last year because he was like, this isn't my specialty. He tried. Yeah. And then we found out, hey, this isn't working, and we fixed it. Mm-hmm. Great. That's where my weird comes from.
Yeah, and it's very evident that last year was not what Satterfield wanted to run with the offense, considering what we've seen through 3 games with Dylan so far is they want to throw the ball. They want to get the ball to their playmakers. And Nebraska can run the ball too. Now, granted, they did not run the ball that much this game. I think, Dondell only had 6 total carries. But I mean, he averaged 9.5 a carry. Emmett came in, averaged 12.5, but that's probably offset by that one long touchdown that he had. But I mean, outside of that, Nebraska only ran it 22 total times. And I know I wrote that stat in there is, they only ran 48 total plays. And that's the lowest that Nebraska has ever run in a win since 2004, which is a mind-blowing stat.
Billy C.
And the last time Nebraska ran less than 48 plays was 46 plays last year against Michigan. And we all know how that one turned out.
That was a different reason for running less plays.
Yes.
All of our signs were stolen.
Yeah, you're right. It's asterisks on that game. But it's just a weird feeling that like you can run that little plays, like little amount of plays and still win by 31 points. So it's a testament to the offense being good. It's very much a testament to your defense holding Northern Iowa to what they did, despite like almost doubling the time of possession. So it was an overall, Dylan still, obviously he threw that first interception, but that can go both ways, whether you blame Dylan or whether you blame Jalen Lloyd. But a nearly perfect game from Dylan. I love our freshman playmakers of him, Carter Nelson, Ja'Cory Barney, all getting involved. I mean, the offense clearly wants to get Carter Nelson involved more. I think he led again in receptions. Yeah, I think he led last week in receptions too. So I would also love, if they do get Nayor and Banks more involved, because I mean, those are your senior leaders at the wide receiver room. But if you can kind of disguise that, mix in Nelson and Barney and kind of throw off who they're going to throw the ball to, it's, makes it harder on the opposing defenses to kind of play in their coverage of who do we need to guard more when they're kind of throwing it all over the field. But I mean, you look at the receptions for Nebraska. I mean, what 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Almost 10 total different players had a catch on Saturday. So it's Nebraska wants to spread the ball around and get it to its playmakers. So you're not going to have your top leading receiver with 10 plus catches a game, just because the way that Nebraska's offense is right now is you're giving the ball to whoever has the hot hand, whether that's the running back or the receiver. It's going to be coming from Dylan, but it's just who does Dylan throw to after that, or who does he give the ball to after that? But yeah, it's fun to watch the offense when it's actually a competent offense and a competent quarterback running the offense.
True that.
But yeah, you guys, whatever your thoughts were for a Saturday.
Nate, I'm gonna let you finish, just because I need to preface this by saying I only got to watch the first half because I had a gig that I was playing at that night. So I was really just keeping up on stats, and it was funny because they had where we were playing on stage. It's a moving stage. It's built into a truck on the side of a truck. It's kind of cool, but they had a projector on the front part of the truck. I don't know if people know how drummers work. We sit in the back, so I couldn't see it. So thankfully, the rest of the guys in the band, as in between songs, would give me updates as part of the show. It was kind of funny. So I didn't actually get to watch the second half, and I have not had a chance to go back and watch it. So it's just been stat reading for me. But the first half was great. So no notes except for the defense being a little shaky. But to your point, Nate, Andy, you did say that that was UNI's thing, where they just run and kill time of possession.
Yeah.
And to my whole thought from that was, we did figure it out finally. We obviously stopped them. We held them to 3 points. The defense did their job. Yeah. And not only that, I'm glad that something like that happened, to the point where now it's I think Rule made this comment in some other game, or maybe it was even this one. He's now I can go and say,
yell at him.
Basically yell at him.
It's good to nitpick about being mad about giving up 3 points.
Yeah.
No, exactly. And Rule and Tony White know we are better than that, even though your defense just gave up 3 points. You're being mad about that. It's but we can do better.
Exactly. And so I think it was good that it happened the way that it did, and the way that because our offense, that's what I mean when I say no notes, is our offense the first half is just lights out. They got the ball, and it was just one of those. It was the weirdest feeling, because as a Nebraska fan for the past decade, we all know it's been okay, we got the ball back. Let's hope and pray they can do the thing. Whereas after 2 official drives, they got down and scored it was nothing. And then you're just okay, they're going to go do it again. And again, I understand we were playing UNI, but it's just good. That's what they're supposed to do. They're supposed to make this look easy. Defense, I think there were more notes, but I don't coach. And again, I didn't watch the second half, so I can't really speak to that. So your turn, Nate.
No, I was just going to say that I think Andy's analysis of it's nice to have a competent quarterback play in a competent offense, which is pretty much what you were saying too, Zach. I don't know. I don't even know if it's a concern, but it's the kind of in the back of your head where the past 2 games the offense hasn't necessarily shown up as much in the second half, and there could be reasons for that, and there could be scary reasons for that. I tend to think it's more of just kind of not wanting to show their hand too much, and just kind of, because I don't know, the second half of the UNI game to me just kind of seemed like they were just kind of throwing things out there, seeing it was going to stick more than an actual game plan.
I think going back through like some of the text messages you guys sent too, again, having not watched it, it sounded like it was a lot of not weird plays, not like trick plays, but plays that like you test to be like, how well does this work against somebody that's not the scout team? You know, like how well does 4 verts on second down work or whatever? You know what I mean? Like how
always, duh.
And that was the other point that I forgot that I wanted to make is having not watched it, but like looking at the stats, like still moved the ball. It just looked like we were in I don't want to say autopilot because I know like coaches would hate that, but it's at the same time like they looked like they were just let's just run this out. Let's not do anything crazy, stupid. We don't need to. They were up how many scores? So yeah, I think I'm on your page, Nate, where it's I don't think it's a concern until it has to be a concern. You know what I mean?
Yep. It's like a worry in the back of your head. It's just like maybe, but probably not. And
we're gonna find out this weekend.
Yeah, exactly. That was gonna be my next point. It's like we're gonna be facing a team where we're probably gonna need a full 4 quarters on Friday.
Especially based on how Illinois has always played Nebraska. Well, just Brett Bielema coach teams in general. But I mean, like Nebraska and Illinois have always played close together. And the exciting part is first ranked matchup in 5 years for Nebraska?
Yeah.
Rank on rank?
I put on almost 8 years.
Oh, is it longer than that?
2016. When
what was the 2019 stat? The last time we were ranked?
The last time we were ranked, yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the last time we had a ranked on ranked matchup was when Tommy Armstrong got hurt against Ohio State in the shoe. And that was like the 63-7 game or whatever that was. Because Nebraska went in them to that one on that 7-0 start as well.
Well, that was right after we lost Wisconsin.
Oh yeah.
Time.
Yeah, they got bludgeoned that game, but that's first ranked on ranked matchup since 2016. It's the first time that Nebraska will have a ranked matchup against Illinois since 1985. And then it's
back
the first
in my day.
Yeah, it's the first ranked on ranked matchup in Memorial Stadium since UCLA in 2013 when Nebraska trotted out those god awful black uniforms.
Oh, I remember.
Yeah, I went to that game as a student.
I don't like that.
Yeah, that was. Yeah, I was at that game too because I camped out for that game.
The movie Inside Out, it's all the core memory thing.
Oh,
that's
man.
A core memory that I didn't want to remember. Thank you.
That's the only reason I remember that game too. And I go, oh yeah, the last time they were here, we wore those awful black uniforms. So
I love how that's what you pick out.
Have either of you guys seen what our uniforms are for this week? I feel like I need to know.
Are they not just normal?
I haven't heard anything that they're going to do anything.
Oh, wait.
It is the 400th sellout.
Yeah.
So
I haven't heard that they're going to do anything.
I think before the season started, I think Rule announced that we're not doing alternates of any type this year. So
whether he has control over that, I don't know. But I haven't heard anything.
I would assume he's got some kind of insight. Yeah. I mean, I would hope that Mr. Dannon, our AD, is like, hey, you know what I should do? Pee. You do that. Like pee where I eat. Like don't do that.
Yeah. But yeah, it's big time showdown this weekend. I guess Friday night.
Friday.
Lame.
Friday night, 7:00, big time Fox Network under the lights of Memorial Stadium for the 400th consecutive sellout. If the rank on rank matchup wasn't already going to be juiced enough, I mean, you get whatever they're going to do stadium wise inside for the 400th. I mean, there's probably going to be a whole extravaganza.
Be real cool if they gave everybody black t-shirts. So when you come in, you get a t-shirt on your seat so you can do a blackout game.
That, I have heard rumors of that.
Since we aren't allowed to have alcohol, a different type of blackout game.
Quote unquote, not allowed.
What is this? A black shirt and a fifth of Jack? What's going on here?
Yes, but Illinois and very comparative to how Nebraska is as a team right now. Both defenses are great. Illinois has forced more turnovers than Nebraska this year, but Nebraska has also doubled the amount of sacks, tackles for lost quarterback hurries than Illinois. But both defenses, the average about 7 points a game right now of giving up. So defense comparative wise, they're pretty much identical of, what you're going to get out of Illinois and Nebraska. Now, Illinois, this is probably their first real test. I don't think they played anybody of note. Well, I mean, besides that upset of Kansas, but now Kansas doesn't look that good anymore.
I was just going to say, I feel
that
like
win
Kansas
kind of
could have
taints
been
it.
the argument.
Yeah. The
They
Kansas
had
has
like
won.
a record numbers of fumbles in one play, though.
Yeah, that was insane to watch.
That was hilarious.
Against UNLV. But, you know, I think this game is definitely going to come down to which offense is going to be better. I think we both know, like, we know what we're going to get from Nebraska's defense, and just stat wise, we kind of know what we're going to get from Illinois. Offensive wise, Illinois is so far perfect in the red zone this season, whether it's a touchdown or field goal. Nebraska, I don't actually know what the red zone number was, but it's probably not perfect. Just knowing that we're 0-2 or 0-3 on the season on fourth down. So I'm assuming one of those probably happened in the red zone. But Illinois is definitely more of they have two top receivers that are their playmakers and then nobody else after that. And they have their lead running back, whereas Nebraska, you know, can get the ball to anybody. We kind of do. We're going to ride down Dell, but then we have a plethora of other running backs so we can put in at any point that can be playmakers. We played Altmaier last year, and our defense was good against him last year. But, you know, just another year of experience now for Altmaier, seeing Tony White's 3-3-5 defense. And he has looked better this year throughout the season. So he's probably going to come in looking better than he did last year. You know, and Nebraska, they did win that game in Champaign 20-7 last year. And we all remember that first drive where Illinois went for it on, you know, 4th and goal and got stuffed on the first drive. And that kind of changed the momentum of that game for Illinois. Because Nebraska's defense took over after that. But it's going to be a very fun game. And like Nate had mentioned before, this is going to be the first time we'll see our offense probably needing to play all 4 quarters. So how does Nebraska look in a game that the offense is needing to be aggressive still in the 3rd and 4th quarter with your starters? We haven't seen that much this year. And like, it's not anything to complain about either, because we haven't had that luxury of winning the games you actually should win in your non-conference schedule. So it's going to be a much more physical, much more tough defense that Dylan and the offense is going to face, but I still trust our offensive line. They've only given up 1 sack this year, and I think it was kind of a Dylan-induced 4th sack anyways. So they're going to go about, obviously you're going to go up against better competition, and now you're getting into Big Ten play. You're going to face Big Ten linemen. But I still trust our offensive line to give Dylan the protection. And, you know, it's going to be up to Bert of what coverages he wants to throw at Dylan. You know, you can try to throw him off, give him mixed different coverages, signals, anything like that. But I think Dylan's smart enough to kind of read through all that and still be the playmaker that he has been. And like I said, our defense, I still trust our defense to, if they clean up the tackles like they did against last week, I mean, you know, they probably won't hold Illinois to 7 points. That would be great if they did again.
I'd be fine with it.
Yeah, I think we would all be fine with it. As obviously, as long as our offense keeps scoring in return. But it's, I mean, same for our defense. It's going to be a tougher competition for them. You're facing now a more experienced team. I mean, Illinois is not just ranked for any reason. I mean, they have looked good in their wins this year. So it's going to be a very fun, interesting matchup, I think. And definitely a true test of our starters and on both sides of the ball playing all 4 quarters instead of putting your second strings halfway through the 3rd into the 4th quarter. So that's the part I'm interested to see. Is you're assuming that all of your starters are probably well rested because they haven't really had a chance to play all 4 quarters. So now when they are playing in that 4th quarter, you know, how is their conditioning? I mean, you're going to have the energy and the emotions from the fan base in there. Probably not going to be as crazy as it was for Colorado, but it's still a night game at Memorial Stadium. It's the 400th sellout. I mean, you're going to have that energy and that atmosphere and beside your back. So the team needs to hone in on that, especially on defense, and kind of use that all 4 quarters. And the fans also need to kind of do what they did against Colorado, is just keep that up all 4 quarters. You can't just kind of stop halfway through the 3rd quarter and just let the game go on. I mean, they need to be there all 4 quarters as well. So that's to your point, Nate, I'm very interested to see how the team does 3rd, 4th quarters when they haven't had to play that much this year at all. So I think whoever probably is going to win that second half, obviously, is going to win the game, but it's probably going to come down to a second half football game, and Nebraska's going to finally play their first close game. So are they mentally able to get over that after years of not winning these close games anymore? And obviously, we know Rule is very different with this culture and different with this team, but they haven't had that test yet. So when they are up against the wall, or when the offense is needed to go out there to retake the lead or tie the game, how do they respond in that situation too? They haven't trailed all season, so the offense has never really been in that situation unless it was 0-0. So how does the offense respond when they are needing to score points on a drive? That's the part I'm very interested to see. Obviously, I don't want that to happen. I would love for all these games to be exactly the same, where we just blow them out. But we know with Big Ten play now, and especially with an experienced team like Illinois coming in, how are they going to respond to that?
Yeah. Correct.
That's my answer.
Yeah.
I have no notes.
Yeah, I mean, I'm interested to see how the defense responds to. That's about my only other, concern. I think they'll be fired up, it seems like, from the quotes that I've seen throughout the week from some of the defensive players. Seem like they were pretty disappointed in their performance, and were already excited to get back out on the field and kind of right those wrongs, if you will. So we'll see. I mean, hopefully they do. There's, I guess, the chance that they don't, but I'm
I mean, they did respond after they gave up the 3 points to Northern Iowa. I mean, they were showing it on the broadcast. I mean, Ty was yelling. I mean, Tony White was over there yelling at him too. So it's going to be the same thing as, whatever drive that happens where you give up a leading touchdown or leading field goal to Illinois. It's, how is the defense going to come out and respond to the next drive again, and vice versa with the offense, like I said before.
Yeah, that's been interesting too. It seems like, and I mean, even kind of dating back to the last season, where our defense will kind of just, I don't know, sit there and almost like take the first punch just to kind of see how they're moving, like what they want to kind of accomplish on offense, and then they'll kind of put the clamps down. Yeah. And so I don't know if that's a strategy or if that's just coincidence.
Right. I mean, it's the same thing like with a boxer. If you watch any of Bud Crawford's fights, I mean, that's exactly what Bud does. I mean, the first 3-4 rounds, Bud will just kind of sit, wait his time, see how the other boxer's doing. And then, you get to 6th, 7th round, and then he'll start throwing his, changing his stance, throwing his punches to finally win the match. So, yeah, I mean, it's very similar. They obviously you don't want to preach that. Like, we'll let them have this first one and then we'll obviously adjust. But I mean, it's not on purpose, but yeah, it's kind of like, we'll see how these first couple drives go before we kind of figure out what we want to run against them.
Yeah. And I mean, to their credit, every time that they've been scored on, they've responded really well.
Yeah,
because Colorado's the only one that scored twice.
And that was a second string defense. That wasn't even your starters.
So I think there is a certain pride that they take. Like, if it does happen where the other team does score, they take it pretty personally. And
because against UTEP, they gave up that touchdown, and Malcolm did, and then they came out the next drive and got a safety. So it's they have responded well every time they've been punched in the mouth.
Yeah. So hopefully they continue that. The offense, if they can keep, like you said, I don't know. I'm leaning towards it not being as close of a game as what people are thinking, and
I don't think it'll be as high scoring as we think it will be.
Yeah,
I want it to be, but I think, I think if they can get to 30 again, I mean, that's probably well enough to win you the game. Even 24 might win you the game too.
It's Big Ten play. It's gonna be
and that's what the Big Ten is. Yeah, I was
gonna say it's. This is going to be, especially with Illinois. I guess that's really my only note to the game is Illinois always comes in and plays hard. So we know as fans even that this is going to be our first real test. So how does Nebraska respond to now? And I think this is one of those games where this is where we see the mental side of it come in, because I think that Illinois is going to score on us. Not to say that our defense is bad. It's more they're just going to be the best team that we've played. They're going to do things that we're I don't want to say we're not ready for, but they're going to do things that are going to surprise us. That's just the nature of the game, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
It's how do we respond in those moments, kind of like you said, Andy. And then on the offense, it's like, oh, are we down 3? Just like the whole idea is, we're always chasing 3, which is the name of the series, right? The online series.
And
so it's like if we're trying
kicker is
trying.
We don't know. Yeah, our kicker's trying his best.
We'll see. I mean, I hope we get to the point where we can just get. It seems like our offense can move the ball well enough to get him at least chip shots and not have to kick 45, 50-yard field goals. And who knows? Maybe there's more to the story that we're not aware of. Whatever. I don't really want to delve too deep into that. I don't know anything about kicking, so I have no notes on it because I don't know anything about it other than it looks hard.
Yeah, I mean, if you just compare the top passing, rushing yard leaders on both teams, I mean, those stats are pretty identical across the board between, Dillon and Altmaier, their top running back, and Dondell, receiver, and Nayor. I mean, it's pretty comparable. So it's clear that these offenses, again, take into granted what Illinois and who they have played. But it's pretty comparable that these offenses are stat-wise pretty identical. I can't say I've watched Illinois that much. So I actually don't know how they look, but I think our offense is better. But it's going to be the second half again is will they come out and, continue to be aggressive, or if the game's put away by that point, are they going to keep doing what they do? Which, again, not complaining about that, but when it is a close second half game, how does Satterfield call it versus, is he going to keep calling it like the first half, or are they going to keep calling it like the past 3 second halves this season? So
that's really the best case scenario, though. If we come out and see a boring second half, that means we did our job.
It is, and I'm not complaining about it because we haven't been accustomed to that. But I'm also at the point where I do kind of want to see how this offense is in a close second half, just so we have a sample size of it. Going forward for the rest of the season.
This is a weird comparison for Illinois to me, but just hear me out because I think it kind of fits. And I don't mean it in gameplay or exactly player type, just kind of like the game plan for Nebraska. But Illinois reminds me of how I would think we would game plan for Colorado, where it's they've got 2 or 3 really, really good players that we're going to have to key in on and make sure that we shut them down as best as we can. And then it kind of, it's going to force Illinois kind of similar to how we shut down Shedeur and Travis Hunter and, the rest of Colorado at that point. But, I feel like this is a very similar type of game plan concept where it's hey, watch those guys specifically because they're the ones that they're going to be trying to get the ball to. I am not saying that Illinois and Colorado are the same type of team. I'm just saying it seems
Illinois is
to me
better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, okay. You and I is better than Colorado. Yes. You and I is better than Colorado.
Yeah.
And, watching the game, that was the other thing that I took from it is that you and I as a team that they play hard and they were even though that first quarter was very they were fun to watch, even though, they never gave up. So always credit to the other team.
Tony White's going to have his handful because it's not, I feel bad about all teams having a game plan for our offense because we spread the ball to literally everybody. Where Illinois, you have your 2 top receivers, your top running back that are your key playmakers, and obviously Altmaier. So, and I know Rule had said earlier this week that that designed Dillon run on third down or whatever. They're not going to have very many design packages for him, but he's yeah, I want to get that on tape so that gives that defensive coordinator something else to worry about. Because he's I want that defensive coordinator, whoever's watching that film, to spend 20 extra minutes watching film, trying to break down the quarterback run instead of doing something else. So it's obviously as a defensive coordinator, is he serious about that? Are they really not going to run read options that much with Dillon? Or is he, so on and so forth. But it's Nebraska definitely is more of a spread offense in the true sense to where you can plug anybody in at receiver or running back, and they're all playmakers. Now, again, Nebraska also hasn't played that great a competition, but that's just kind of how the offense is going right now. Is we're going to get the ball to whoever's hot. And they certainly have proven that they want to get Carter Nelson and Ja'Cory Barty more involved in that offense as true freshmen. And they should. every time Ja'Cory Barney has the ball, he's patient, waits for his holes to open up on the jet sweeps. I mean, he's got speed and he's awareness. Instead of just trying to hit the hole, like on that touchdown, that he could have just went to the outside and hit the hole, but he kind of waited for whoever the tight end was or the pulling guard to kind of give him his block, and then he shed it towards the goal line. I'm like, you don't see that out of a true freshman in his third game.
It's
like following
football.
Yeah,
he might be
following your block. As a true freshman, you're like, oh, I got speed, I'm faster than everybody, I'm going to beat him to the pylon. He's like, no, I'm going to wait for the guy blocking for me so that I can get to the end zone.
You love to see it.
Yeah, and I want to see Ja'Cory get the ball more. He's an explosive player when he has the ball. And then obviously Dylan is that one avoided sack that he did, and then have the 60-yard bomb to Jalen Lloyd. I mean, he was dead to rights on that play. It was 1-on-1, and Dylan's like, oh, nope.
Dylan might also be good at football.
Yeah, that was a free blitz from their corner linebacker. And it was 1-on-1, and Dylan's like, oh, no, I'm just going to avoid you and just get this open man. And Jalen did fall down before he caught that pass, too. Because he turned back to cut, and he fell down. He's like, oh, crap, I got to get up and get this ball. And then he turned it in like 20 yards extra. But, yeah, it's just like it's laughable how good he is at quarterback. Because we aren't accustomed to it. It's like, every play that
you can tell by us talking, it's like, man, what do we do when we get to 4 quarters? And they're probably sitting there like, we're like,
this is normal for us.
You know what I mean? Like, I feel like Dylan's just got this very, like, did you like his press conference? It was either today or after the game, because obviously I watched those, and he was like, they were asking about the interception. You could tell he was just as mad that he threw the interception.
Yeah.
It's like the whole thing with accountability. This year, I mean, last year too, obviously, but like this year, it just seems like not only are the coaches holding them accountable, but the players themselves, to others. It's very much like
because he knew he underthrew that ball. If he throws that 2 to 3 extra yards, he hits Jalen in stride. That's probably a touchdown. But at the same time, Jalen kind of went up for the ball at his hips instead of trying to high point the ball. But that's why I said it can go both ways of who to blame. But you're right. Like Dylan knew he underthrew him, and if he just gives it a little bit more air, I mean, Jalen's fast enough to catch that ball and score. So it's fun to watch this offense.
Sounds like that culture thing might be building in the
locker
room.
It's weird, right?
It's Matt Rule might know what he's doing.
Matt Rule might be an okay head coach. And with that, I feel like it's prediction time.
It is prediction time.
Yes,
Spread opened at 8.5 to Nebraska. I think it's down to 7.5, depending on which book you go by. General consensus is about 7.5 to 8.5 Nebraska favorite. So at least a touchdown game. With that, I think the over/under is now dipped to 43.5. It opened at 46, which again, not surprising. I think they are expecting the defenses to ball out a little bit more in this game rather than having it be a high-scoring game. I do think Nebraska does pull this out. I just think everything with it being the 400 sellout, tonight game, prime time on Fox, Memorial Stadium at night. I mean, there's a lot of good energy and vibes in that crowd that the fans will also be an impact on the game, just like they were for Colorado. And they still kind of were for Northern Iowa, but I think that one was more of a snooze fest because it's like it's an opponent you should go in and kick the door down and be done. But now I think with this now being a ranked matchup, it's definitely just more energy is going to go into that game. Still think it's going to be a defensive game, but I think it's 27-14 Nebraska.
27-14. I like it.
Yeah, I don't know. The more we talk about it,
I'm just waiting.
The more confident I'm getting.
I was gonna say I'm waiting for the I'm gonna go conservative here. 68-2.
Yeah.
3, thank you.
You don't think we can get another safety?
No, the safety comes at like the last 2 minutes of the fourth quarter when we put in some,
you're at 68-4.
To 4, okay.
Yeah, 2 safeties.
Okay.
There you go.
Yes.
68-4. Got it typed in.
No, I don't know. I think if you're taking the under, I have questions, but I'm gonna go. I don't think it's. I don't know.
Maybe
think that. maybe I'm drinking too much Kool-Aid. I'm too close to the operation at this point, but I don't think it's going to be a particularly close game. Yeah, I mean, I think the defense is going to come out a little angry after the UNI performance, and I don't know. I have faith in the offense to keep chugging, and honestly, I have faith in Rule to kind of motivate the guys to play for all 4 quarters, regardless of what the score is. So I'm going to go with 38-13 for my score.
Okay.
I was waiting for you to again just throw a 68-4 out there.
I do think, to your point, Nate, the defense will come out more poised. It will, because Illinois is averaging about 2 to 3 turnovers a game on defense, forcing them at least.
I was gonna say what?
No, not on offense. Sorry, not on offense. They're forcing 2 to 3 turnovers a game. I mean, Nebraska is probably averaging about 1, because I think we had 1, 2, and 1, so probably about 1 a game. So I think this game will come down to which defense can force more turnovers and win the turnover battle. Can you force Illinois to make mistakes? And I think Illinois has the same fact is, we know Nebraska's offensive line is good, but when you get to this freshman quarterback and kind of get him frazzled out of the comfort zone, out of his pocket, how does he respond in the face of pressure? And I mean, Dylan, stat wise has been nearly perfect besides the 1 touchdown or 1 interception, but that Ramir pass 9 times out of 10 is an interception by any other linebacker. And he's had a couple questionable throws into double coverage that probably should have been picked off. So it'll be interesting to see if Illinois kind of mixes that up. And, what happens when you frazzle this freshman quarterback is he going to make mistakes? Now, I think Dylan's more poised than most freshman quarterbacks out there. So I don't think it's going to happen, but I'll be interested to see how Illinois kind of dials up their pressure. And, if that is their game plan, is can you force Dylan to make mistakes? That's going to come down to which defense can, I think, create more havoc and create more turnovers. That's probably going to win you the game. But I still think the offense scores a lot too.
I don't know if you can hear that, but that is me packing a box full of Kool-Aid packets shipped to Lincoln, Nebraska right now. It sounds like we're running low.
It's called being pessimistic and being a realist.
That's right.
Setting expectations low to be genuinely excited.
I am a realist too. I really want to win a championship.
Well, with that, I don't have any extra notes that we haven't really already discussed, other than I just stick with it's a 4-quarter game. As always, how kind of like you just said, Andy, how do we respond when something, I don't want to say inevitably goes wrong, but how do we respond when something does eventually go, maybe not our way? And how do we
some adversity?
Yeah, the two turnovers we've had to respond to was the Dowdale fumble at UTEP, and we got a safety after that. And then I don't think we did anything notable after Dylan's interception. So it's not like we've turned the ball over in positive field position for the other offense where we've had to trot our defense back out to guard 30 yards instead of, the whole 70-yard type deal. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see if that does happen. How do we respond when we turn it over in a bad position and give the other offense a chance to score immediately? We haven't had that much because we haven't turned it over 7 times a game with Jeff Sims.
Turns out he's not on the team anymore. So
darn.
Yeah, darn.
Darn, I don't get the Amigos deal anymore. Well, I don't even get Amigos where I'm at anyway, so it doesn't matter. Anyway, play the 4 quarters. Play them well, play. I think I've said it now every game, but take care of business, because in my head on paper, I think Nebraska should win this game. Obviously I'm a homer, but we're very evenly matched, but I think Nebraska has just a bit more talent to pull it out. But I am going to be the one, I think, the closest on paper here and say, I think it's going to be 24-14.
Okay. Price is right me. I see.
Well, if I've learned anything, I got kind of close with my guess this last week. So I'm hoping that eventually I like meet in the middle, because Nate was pretty much almost spot on. You were 3 points off total.
I might predict things for a job.
Kind of.
Well, so Nate won the prediction last week. So I still have yet to win one, but
Sounds a little biased to me.
you won the last two, so you have no room to talk.
Big
If
brain
anything,
here.
I'm the one that should be upset. I think that's it.
It's gonna be a fun night, Friday night, and hopefully I still think
Friday
if it's
night's just so weird to say that.
it is.
Too.
Yeah.
Even if they do lose, it's not going to be the end of the world. Again, it'll come down to we talked about Colorado. It's if they do lose, it's going to be how did they lose or so on and so forth. But even if they just straight up lose and nothing like bad happened to make them lose, it's not going to be the end of the world. Just because it's their first true competition that they're going to play this year. Not that Colorado wasn't true competition. That's really a hard offense to game plan for, and they did it super well. But it's not going to be the end of the world if they lose. It's gonna be more of a learning lesson going forward.
Let's stay on the hype train. I mean, we're 3-0. We might as well take this thing all the way until we can. I get it though. Being a Husker fan for the last however many years has been rough. So yeah, I feel that.
It's going to be a fun atmosphere though in that stadium, for sure. With again everything extra that's going on, and then you get a ranked game on top of that as well. Just sets up for a great night for football in Nebraska. And of note,
I was gonna say, do you guys have? Go ahead. Sorry.
Well, I said that there's no high school games Friday because they all moved for this game, so they're all going to be played Saturday. Yeah.
I mean that makes sense. So, wow.
So that's how much the high schools in Nebraska care about. They might also be forced to do it because they know nobody's going to want to watch their game anyways. But
I was going to say, yeah, I'm wondering if that was on purpose, but
yeah,
it obviously had to be on purpose. But
right. And I assume our coaching staffs are probably going to be out, in the Metro games on Saturday when they do play, just recruiting and stuff. Because the Rule was doing that last Friday too, or no, whatever. There was a clip of him going around. I think he was at one of the Omaha schools last week. So. He's always be recruiting.
Love it.
Always be.
You guys got any last minute thoughts before we wrap this bad boy up?
Ban Friday night college games during the high school football season.
Unfortunately, Nate, I think Nebraska's probably gonna have one every season.
Tuesday night action or Saturday. Those are your times.
Those are your times.
If it's a holiday, whatever you can, whatever. But we have a strict regimen here.
The Black Friday game this year is a night game in Iowa. 6:30 on NBC or CBS, one of the two.
Black Friday is different.
I know it's a 6:30 game, which is going to be very different because that's not been a thing for quite some time on those Black Friday games.
It's going to be fun. Nebraska might be fun to watch this year, guys.
They already are fun to watch.
Yep.
All right. Well, I guess
one performance against UTEP could tell me that this offense is much better than it was last year.
That's also fair. All right. Well, unless we got any last minute thoughts.
Skurs by 90.
Skurs by 90. Thank you all for
68-4.
Yes. Dang it. You got me off my roll. Anyway. Skurs by 90 or 68-4 or whatever you cheer for, as long as the good guys win.
Let's go for the scoreigami.
Thank you once again for tuning into the Sportsball Podcast again, and hope to see you around next time. And as always, stay tuned to your source for sports right here at the Sportsball Podcast.